You've probably noticed something unsettling as you move through life. It's not that people are confusing. It's that they're inconsistent. Someone says they care, yet their actions quietly pull away. Someone promises loyalty, yet disappears the moment it's inconvenient. Someone smiles, agrees, reassures you, and later acts as if none of it mattered. And the most painful part isn't betrayal itself. It's the moment you realize you didn't see it coming. Most people go through life believing they understand people. They listen to words, they trust explanations, they assume good intentions, and again, they're caught off guard. Not because they're naive, not because they're weak, but because no one ever taught them how human behavior actually works. This audiobook exists for that reason, because human beings rarely reveal who they are directly. They reveal themselves indirectly, through patterns, reactions, silence, timings, and pressure. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Words are often performances. Behavior is rarely accidental. People say what sounds right. They say what protects their image. They say what keeps options open. But behavior leaks the truth. You can hear sincerity in tone, but you can see it in consistency. You can believe explanations, but you can trust repetition. And once you understand this, something changes inside you. You stop overthinking conversations. You stop replaying moments, wondering what you missed. You stop blaming yourself for not being more intuitive. Because intuition isn't magic, it's trained observation. This audiobook is not about manipulation. It's not about control. And it's not about becoming cold or distant. It's about clarity. It's about learning how to observe without projecting, how to listen without absorbing, how to see people as they are, not as you hope they'll be. Most misunderstandings don't come from malice. They come from assumption. You assume others think like you. You assume their values mirror yours. You assume honesty is universal. But human behavior doesn't operate on assumptions. It operates on incentives, emotions, fears, and unconscious habits. And the sooner you see that, the safer and calmer you become. There's a quiet power in understanding people. When you can read behavior, you don't need constant reassurance. When you recognize emotional patterns, you don't chase clarity. When you notice reactions instead of words, confusion fades. You stop asking, "Why did they do that?" and start saying, "Of course they did." Not with bitterness, with awareness. This audiobook will guide you through the hidden mechanics behind how people think, react, protect themselves, and reveal themselves, often without realizing it. You'll learn why emotional reactions are more honest than explanations, why silence often communicates more than speech, why pressure exposes character faster than comfort, and why the calm observer always sees more than the reactive participant. You'll also confront something deeper. The reason we misjudge people isn't just because of them, it's because of us. We project, we fill in gaps with our own values. We interpret behavior through personal hope. And once you become aware of that tendency, you gain something rare: the ability to step back, to observe instead of react, to understand instead of personalize, to choose clarity over confusion. As you listen, don't rush. Let the patterns sink in. Let the examples connect to moments you've lived. This isn't information meant to impress you. It's insight meant to protect you. By the end of this audiobook, you won't see people as good or bad. You'll see them as predictable. And when behavior becomes predictable, emotional chaos loses its grip. You don't need to control people. You don't need to confront everyone. You don't need to explain yourself endlessly. You simply need to see clearly. And clarity, quiet, steady, unshakable clarity, is where real power begins. Chapter 1. Most people are acting, not being real. Most people believe they are being themselves. They believe their personality is authentic, their opinions are original, and their behavior reflects who they truly are. But if you slow down and observe carefully, without judgment, without emotion, you begin to notice something uncomfortable. People are not being, they are performing. From childhood, human beings learn a quiet lesson that shapes almost every interaction they will ever have. Acceptance is conditional. Approval must be earned. Belonging requires adjustment. So people adapt. They watch reactions. They test behaviors. They learn what gets rewarded and what gets rejected. Over time, these adjustments stop feeling temporary. They harden into habits, and eventually, habit becomes identity. What you often encounter is not the person as they are, but the role they believe they must play. The social mask everyone wears. Every social environment rewards something different. At work, confidence is praised, even if it's hollow. In relationships, agreeableness is valued, even if it's dishonest. In social circles, humor, dominance, or charm become currencies. So people put on masks. They speak differently depending on who is listening. They soften opinions, exaggerate achievements, hide doubts. They shape their tone, posture, and expressions to fit the room. This is not manipulation, it's survival. Human beings are deeply social creatures, and social systems punish authenticity when it threatens harmony or status. So most people choose safety over truth. They choose fitting in over standing out. They choose being liked over being known. The problem is not that people wear masks. The problem is forgetting that the mask is not the face. Why words are the weakest signal? When someone tells you who they are, they're often telling you who they want to be seen as. Words are deliberate. Words are filtered. Words are designed. People explain themselves in ways that protect their image. They describe their intentions, not their patterns. They tell stories that justify their behavior rather than reveal it. This is why relying on words alone leads to confusion. Someone says they value honesty, but avoids difficult conversations. Someone claims loyalty, but disappears under pressure. Someone insists they care, yet their actions quietly drift away. These contradictions don't mean people are evil. They mean people are inconsistent, especially when their self-image is at stake. Behavior, on the other hand, is harder to fake over time. Behavior is the unconscious confession. Behavior leaks truth in small, repeated ways. How someone responds when they don't get their way. How they act when no one is watching. How they treat people who offer them nothing in return. These moments require no speeches, no explanations, no justification. They are automatic. While words come from intention, behavior comes from conditioning. It reveals what a person defaults to when they are not consciously managing impressions. This is why experienced observers rarely ask, "What did they say?" They ask, "What did they do?" and "How often?" Patterns are more honest than promises. The comfort of believing the act. Many people prefer the performance. Believing the act is comforting. It allows hope. It allows optimism. It avoids uncomfortable conclusions. Accepting behavior at face value feels kinder than questioning motives. But this comfort comes at a cost. When you believe the role instead of observing the pattern, you misjudge character. You excuse inconsistencies. You rationalize red flags. You assume misunderstandings where there are repeated signals. And then, when reality finally breaks through, it feels sudden, even though it was quietly forming the entire time. Understanding that most people are acting is not about becoming cynical. It's about becoming accurate. How to observe without becoming cold. Seeing performance does not require judgment. You don't need to confront. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to withdraw emotionally. You simply need to watch. Watch what changes under pressure. Watch what stays consistent across situations. Watch how someone behaves when they lose control of the narrative. Real character emerges when performance becomes difficult to maintain. This kind of observation creates calm. You stop chasing clarity through conversation. You stop demanding explanations. You let behavior speak at its natural volume. And when you do this, something subtle happens inside you. You become less reactive, less surprised, less emotionally pulled. Not because you care less, but because you see more. The power of quiet awareness. Most people are exhausted from misunderstanding others. They replay conversations. They analyze tone. They question their own judgment. But the issue is rarely lack of intelligence. It's misplaced attention. Once you shift your focus from words to behavior, confusion loses its grip. You stop trying to decode personalities through conversation alone. You let time and consistency reveal what speech tries to hide. This doesn't make you distant, it makes you grounded. You learn to engage without illusion, to connect without self-deception, to trust observation over hope. And in a world full of performance, that kind of awareness is rare. Because while most people are busy acting, the observer is quietly understanding. And understanding, clear, steady, unemotional understanding, is the foundation of reading people without being controlled by them. Chapter 2. Behavior Reveals. What words try to hide? Words are easy to shape. Behavior is not. This is one of the most important truths to understand if you want to read people clearly. Human beings speak with intention. They choose words carefully, often unconsciously filtering what they say through fear, desire, image, and self-protection. Behavior, however, emerges from habit. It shows up when thinking stops and instinct takes over. That is why behavior reveals what words try so hard to conceal. When someone tells you who they are offering a narrative. When someone shows you who they are revealing a pattern, and patterns do not lie. Most people assume honesty lives in language. They listen closely to explanations, promises, apologies, and reasons. They believe clarity comes from talking things through, but human psychology works differently. The mind is incredibly skilled at justifying behavior after the fact. Words are often used to explain away discomfort, not to reveal truth. Behavior does not explain itself. It simply repeats. A person may say they are busy, but always find time for what matters to them. A person may claim they care, but consistently delay action. A person may insist they are loyal, but disappear when circumstances change. None of these require interpretation. They require observation. The gap between speech and action. The most revealing space in human behavior is the gap between what someone says and what they do. This gap is not accidental. It forms when intention conflicts with reality, when self-image clashes with habit, when desire meets discomfort. People speak from who they want to be. They act from who they are practiced at being. That difference explains why words often feel convincing in the moment, but disappointing over time. Language operates in the present. Behavior reveals itself across time. If you want to understand someone, stop listening for intensity and start watching for consistency. Intensity can be manufactured. Consistency cannot. Excuses are psychological smoke. When behavior doesn't align with words, excuses appear. Excuses are not random. They are psychological smoke screens. They redirect attention away from the pattern and back toward explanation. They sound reasonable. They appeal to empathy. They invite you to give the benefit of the doubt. And once or twice, that doubt may be fair. But when excuses become frequent, they stop being explanations and start becoming signals. Repeated explanations are often admissions without awareness. Someone who is consistently late will always have a reason. Someone who avoids responsibility will always have context. Someone who crosses boundaries will always justify intention. What matters is not whether the excuse sounds logical. What matters is whether the behavior changes. If it doesn't, the excuse is irrelevant. Micro behaviors. Tell the truth. Most people look for dramatic signals. Big betrayals, loud arguments, obvious lies. But human behavior is more honest in its smallest expressions. Micro behaviors speak quietly but consistently. How someone responds when plans shift. How they handle inconvenience. How they react when they don't get immediate validation. These moments reveal emotional maturity, entitlement, patience, and respect more accurately than any self-description ever could. People rarely lie with their habits. Habits are formed slowly and reinforced unconsciously. They reflect internal priorities, not external presentation. If someone values you, their behavior will move toward you naturally. If they don't, distance will appear without announcement. Why we ignore? Behavioral truth. People don't struggle to see behavior. They struggle to accept what it implies. Behavior forces conclusions. Words allow hope. Accepting behavior means letting go of potential, letting go of imagined futures, letting go of who we thought someone could be. So instead, many people explain behavior away. They assume misunderstanding. They wait for clarity. They ask for reassurance. They look for the right conversation that will finally align words with actions. But alignment doesn't come from conversation. It comes from choice. And choice shows up in behavior. Reading without emotional entanglement. Understanding behavior does not require confrontation. You don't need to challenge inconsistencies. You don't need to demand explanations. You don't need to expose contradictions. You simply need to notice. Noticing is quiet. It is internal. It doesn't provoke defensiveness or escalate conflict. It allows you to adjust your expectations without trying to change the other person. This is where emotional intelligence becomes practical. You stop reacting to what people say and start responding to what they show. You let behavior inform boundaries. You let patterns guide trust. This does not make you detached. It makes you precise. The freedom of seeing clearly. When you begin to prioritize behavior over words, confusion fades. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop chasing explanations. You stop personalizing inconsistency. Instead, you see reality as it is. Some people are consistent. Some people are situational. Some people are reliable only when it's convenient. None of this requires judgment. It only requires awareness. And awareness gives you freedom. Freedom from false hope. Freedom from emotional whiplash. Freedom from being persuaded by speech that behavior never supports. Words can inspire. Words can comfort. But behavior tells the truth, even when no one intends it to. And once you learn to read that truth calmly, steadily, without resistance, you stop being confused by people. You understand them. Chapter 3. Emotional reactions. Expose inner truth. People reveal more about themselves in a moment of emotion than in hours of explanation. This is because emotional reactions are rarely planned. They rise before the mind has time to filter, polish, or protect an image. In those brief moments, anger, defensiveness, jealousy, fear, the inner structure of a person becomes visible. Emotion is not weakness, it is information. Most people misunderstand emotional reactions because they judge them morally instead of psychologically. They label reactions as good or bad, appropriate or inappropriate, instead of asking the more useful question, what does this reaction protect? Every emotional reaction is a defense of something internal. When someone becomes disproportionately angry, something important has been threatened. When someone becomes defensive, a fragile self-image has been touched. When someone withdraws emotionally, a fear of exposure or loss is present. These reactions are not random. They point directly to inner vulnerabilities. Why strong reactions matter more than calm statements. Calm statements are controlled. Emotional reactions are spontaneous. When someone speaks calmly about their values, they are describing how they want to be seen. When someone reacts emotionally, they are revealing what truly matters to them, often without realizing it. A person who claims confidence but reacts sharply to criticism is protecting insecurity. A person who says they are indifferent but reacts with jealousy is revealing attachment. A person who insists they are honest but reacts defensively to questions is guarding a narrative. Emotional intensity signals importance. The stronger the reaction, the closer you are to a psychological core. This does not mean you should provoke people to test them. Life naturally provides enough moments of stress, disagreement, and discomfort. All you need to do is observe how people respond when those moments arrive. Triggers are psychological signposts. A trigger is not an accident, it is a signpost. People are triggered where they are unresolved. When a comment, delay, boundary, or disagreement produces a reaction that feels larger than the situation, something deeper is being activated. Often, the person reacting is not responding to the present moment, but to an old emotional wound. This is why reactions sometimes feel out of proportion. The situation is small, the emotion is large. Understanding this allows you to read people without taking their reactions personally. Their reaction is about them, not you. Defensiveness reveals self-image. Defensiveness is one of the clearest emotional signals. A defensive person is not protecting the truth. They are protecting how they see themselves. When someone cannot tolerate being questioned, corrected, or challenged, even gently, it suggests that their identity is fragile. They rely on a specific narrative to feel stable, and any threat to that narrative feels dangerous. This is why defensiveness often appears as anger, dismissal, sarcasm, or excessive explanation. The goal is not to resolve the issue. The goal is to restore internal comfort. When you notice defensiveness, you're looking at the edge of someone's self-concept. Anger shows. Where control is lost, anger is often misunderstood as strength. In reality, it usually signals loss of control. People become angry when something they rely on is challenged. Authority, respect, predictability, dominance, or validation. Anger attempts to reassert control over a situation that feels threatening. This is why anger often appears when boundaries are set. A person who reacts with anger to a simple boundary is revealing entitlement. A person who reacts with rage to disagreement is revealing insecurity. Calm people do not need to intimidate. Secure people do not need to overpower. Anger reveals where someone feels powerless. Withdrawal speaks as loudly as explosion. Not all emotional reactions are loud. Some people disappear, they go silent, they shut down. Withdrawal is often a strategy learned early in life. It protects against conflict, rejection, or vulnerability. When emotions feel overwhelming or unsafe, the nervous system chooses distance. This reaction reveals fear, not indifference. Someone who withdraws instead of communicating is often avoiding exposure, not lacking feeling. Again, the behavior matters more than the explanation. How to observe emotional truth without reacting. The key to reading emotional reactions is distance. Not physical distance, but emotional distance. You do not need to argue. You do not need to correct. You do not need to mirror intensity. You simply notice. Notice what triggered the reaction. Notice its intensity. Notice how quickly it resolves, or doesn't. Over time, emotional patterns become visible. Some people react explosively and recover quickly. Some hold resentment quietly. Some oscillate between extremes. These patterns tell you how safe, stable, and predictable someone is, emotionally. The gift of emotional awareness. When you learn to read emotional reactions, you stop being confused by them. You no longer ask, why did they act like that? You understand what that reaction protects. This understanding gives you choice. You choose how close to stand. You choose what to share. You choose which behaviors you engage with. Emotions stop controlling the situation. They become information, quiet, revealing, and precise. And with that awareness, you begin to see people more clearly than words ever allowed. Chapter 4. Silence is louder than speech. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it with explanations, jokes, reassurance, or noise. Silence feels like exposure. It removes the protection of words and forces awareness inward. That discomfort alone reveals how powerful silence truly is. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is information. In human behavior, what is not said often matters more than what is spoken. Words can be shaped, filtered, and rehearsed. Silence, however, has weight. It exposes hesitation, uncertainty, avoidance, and intention without a single sentence being formed. When you learn to read silence, you begin to understand people at a deeper level. Silence removes the mask. Speech allows people to perform. Silence removes the script. When conversation stops, there's no immediate opportunity to manage perception. No quick explanation, no charm, no defense. What remains is posture, expression, timing, and reaction. Some people lean into silence with ease. Others fidget, over-explain, or grow anxious. This difference matters. Comfort with silence often signals internal stability. Discomfort reveals dependence on external validation or control. People who need to speak constantly are often trying to guide how they are perceived. Silence interrupts that effort. When you pause and say nothing, you allow the other person's nervous system to reveal itself. The pressure of an unanswered moment. Silence creates psychological pressure. An unanswered message, a pause after a question, a calm, steady gaze without commentary. These moments invite the truth to surface. People fill silence instinctively. They offer information they weren't asked for. They clarify unprompted. They justify without accusation. What emerges in these moments is often more revealing than direct questioning ever could be. This is why experienced negotiators, therapists, and observers rely on silence, not to intimidate, but to allow honesty to rise on its own. Silence does not force truth. It allows it. What silence reveals about character, silence reveals different things depending on context. When someone goes silent after being confronted with behavior, it often signals awareness. They know something has been seen. Silence becomes a moment of recalibration. When someone withdraws into silence instead of communicating, it may signal avoidance or fear of vulnerability. When someone remains calm and present in silence, it often indicates confidence and emotional regulation. The key is not the silence itself, but the pattern. Is silence used to think or to punish, to reflect or to avoid, to regulate or to manipulate? These distinctions matter. Silence and power dynamics. In social dynamics, silence often shifts power. People who speak less are often listened to more. Their words carry weight because they are not diluted by excess. Their presence commands attention because it is not demanding it. This is why confident individuals do not rush to respond. They are not concerned with filling space or proving worth. They allow moments to unfold naturally. On the other hand, people who feel uncertain often over-communicate. They repeat themselves. They seek confirmation. They explain when no explanation is required. Silence reveals where power resides. Not power over others, but power within oneself. The difference between silence and withdrawal. It's important to distinguish silence from withdrawal. Silence is presence without noise. Withdrawal is absence. Silence can be attentive, grounded, and intentional. Withdrawal is often protective or avoidant. Someone who is silent but engaged, listening, observing, responding thoughtfully, is demonstrating emotional maturity. Someone who uses silence to punish control, or avoid accountability is revealing insecurity. Again, behavior tells the story. Using silence to read, not control. This audiobook is not about using silence as a tactic. It is about understanding what silence naturally reveals. You do not need to create uncomfortable situations. Everyday life offers enough pauses, delays, and quiet moments. Your role is to notice what people do in them. Do they rush to reassure? Do they become defensive? Do they stay calm and present? These responses are not random. They reflect internal comfort with uncertainty and self-awareness. When you stop filling silence yourself, something changes. You stop managing perception. You stop explaining unnecessarily. You stop reacting impulsively. You become an observer. Silence creates emotional safety for you. When you allow silence, you protect your emotional energy. You don't rush into clarifying misunderstandings that aren't yours to fix. You don't overextend yourself to maintain comfort. You don't volunteer explanations to soothe other people's anxiety. You let moments speak. This creates emotional safety because you're no longer carrying conversations alone. You allow responsibility to remain shared, and in doing so, you gain clarity. The calm observer. Advantage. The person who is comfortable with silence sees more. They notice micro-reactions. They sense shifts in tone and posture. They recognize hesitation and certainty. They are not distracted by noise. This does not make them distant or cold. It makes them present. Silence slows the interaction down. And when things slow down, truth has space to appear. In a world full of constant speech, the ability to remain quiet without discomfort is rare, and rare skills create advantage. Silence does not demand attention, it commands it. And once you understand that, you begin to hear what words could never say. Chapter 5. How people treat others is how they'll treat you. One of the most reliable ways to understand someone has nothing to do with how they treat you. It has everything to do with how they treat people who cannot benefit them. This is where human behavior becomes honest. When people want something from you, approval, connection, opportunity, comfort, they are often on their best behavior. They are attentive, agreeable, generous, and patient. This version of them feels convincing because it is intentional. But intention fades when there is nothing to gain. How someone treats waiters, assistants, subordinates, strangers, former friends, or people who no longer serve a purpose reveals more than any personal interaction ever could. Because in those moments, there is no performance required. Courtesy is often conditional. Many people are polite by strategy, not by nature. They know when politeness pays off. They know when kindness is noticed. They know when restraint protects their image. But observe what happens when social leverage disappears. Does respect remain when there is no audience? Does patience remain when inconvenience appears? Does empathy remain when power is unbalanced? These moments strip away the incentive to perform. Someone who is consistently respectful across contexts is revealing character. Someone who is selectively kind is revealing calculation, and calculation is not inherently malicious, but it is revealing. The myth of "they're different with me." One of the most common self-deceptions is believing someone is different with you. People often say things like, "They're not like that with me," or "You don't see the side of them that I do." And in a narrow sense, that may be true. People do adapt their behavior based on the relationship, but adaptation does not equal transformation. If someone regularly dismisses others, belittles them, manipulates them, or lacks accountability, that pattern exists independently of how they treat you today. It may not surface immediately. It may wait for comfort, stress, or familiarity. But it will surface. Character does not change because of proximity. It reveals itself over time. How people speak about others. Pay close attention to how people talk about those who are not present. Do they speak with contempt? Do they mock vulnerabilities? Do they frame themselves as the victim in every story? The way someone narrates other people's behavior reflects their internal lens. Someone who constantly criticizes others is rehearsing how they will one day frame you. Someone who violates others' privacy will eventually violate yours. Someone who shares secrets freely will not suddenly develop discretion. Speech about others is rehearsal for future behavior. Respect flows downward, not upward. Anyone can show respect upward. People are polite to authority. They are accommodating to those with status. They are careful with those who can affect their outcomes. This tells you very little. What matters is how respect flows downward. How someone treats people they do not fear reveals how they relate to power. How they behave when they hold the advantage reveals their ethical baseline. A person who uses power gently is revealing self-control. A person who uses power to dominate is revealing insecurity. You don't need to imagine how someone might treat you differently in the future. You can observe how they already treat others when the roles are reversed. Excusing patterns is emotional investment. When people ignore these signals, it is rarely because they don't see them. It's because acknowledging them would require emotional adjustment. Letting go of admiration. Letting go of hope. Letting go of the idea that this person is different. So the mind explains. It contextualizes. It rationalizes. They were under stress. They didn't mean it like that. They had a bad day. Once again, explanation replaces observation, but isolated moments can be forgiven. Repeated patterns cannot. Watching consistency. Across contexts, the most accurate way to read someone is to watch them across situations. Watch them when they are praised. Watch them when they are challenged. Watch them when they are ignored. Watch them when they are in control. Consistency across contexts signals integrity. Inconsistency signals role-based behavior. This does not mean judging. It means calibrating expectations. You don't need to confront or accuse. You simply note what is present and adjust how much trust, closeness, or responsibility you place in the relationship. Seeing clearly without losing compassion. Understanding how people treat others does not require bitterness, it requires clarity. You can recognize limitation without resentment. You can acknowledge behavior without demonizing the person. Most people act from conditioning, not intention, from fear, not malice. But compassion does not require self-blindness. You can be kind without being naive. You can be understanding without being exposed. You can see patterns without trying to fix them. The freedom of accurate perception. When you stop believing that people are different with you, something stabilizes inside you. You stop being surprised. You stop over-investing. You stop personalizing behavior that has nothing to do with you. You begin to relate to people as they are, not as exceptions. And that accuracy, quiet, grounded, unreactive accuracy, is one of the most powerful forms of emotional intelligence. Because once you see how someone treats others, you no longer have to wonder how they will eventually treat you. Chapter 6. Insecurity always leaks out. Insecurity is one of the few psychological forces that never stays hidden for long. People can manage impressions. They can rehearse confidence. They can adopt authority, charm, or composure. But insecurity leaks. It leaks through tone, timing, control, comparison, and reaction. It shows up not in what people say when things are going well, but in how they behave when their sense of worth is quietly threatened. Understanding insecurity is essential if you want to read people clearly, because insecure behavior is often misinterpreted as confidence, strength, or even leadership. In reality, insecurity is noisy. The difference between confidence and insecurity. True confidence is calm. It does not need to announce itself. It does not rush to prove anything. It does not require constant agreement. Confident people are comfortable with silence, disagreement, and delay. They do not interpret difference as threat. Insecure people, however, experience the world as unstable. Their sense of worth depends on external validation, so anything that disrupts it feels dangerous. This is why insecurity often masquerades as intensity. Loud opinions, rigid certainty, unnecessary dominance. These are not signs of inner strength. They are attempts to stabilize a fragile self-image. Control is a common leak. One of the clearest signs of insecurity is the need to control. Insecure people attempt to manage outcomes, people, and narratives. They struggle with uncertainty and rely on control to reduce anxiety. This can look like micromanaging conversations, correcting minor details, needing to be right, directing others unnecessarily. The goal is not efficiency. The goal is reassurance. When someone feels secure internally, they do not need to control externally. They trust themselves to adapt. Control reveals fear, not authority. Comparison reveals inner conflict. Secure people do not constantly compare themselves to others. They may notice differences, but they do not feel diminished by them. Insecure people, however, live in comparison. They measure status. They track recognition. They feel threatened by success that is not theirs. This comparison often leaks out through subtle behaviors, downplaying others' achievements, redirecting conversations back to themselves, mocking what they secretly envy. These behaviors are rarely conscious. They are protective reactions. Insecurity turns other people's success into a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. Overreaction is a signal. Another common leak is overreaction. When feedback produces defensiveness, when boundaries produce anger, when disagreement produces withdrawal or hostility. These reactions are not about the situation. They are about what the situation touches internally. Overreaction signals that something important has been threatened: self-worth, image, or identity. Secure people can absorb discomfort without collapsing. Insecure people experience discomfort as danger. That difference shapes everything. Why insecurity is often mistaken for strength. In many social environments, insecure behavior is rewarded. Loudness is mistaken for leadership. Certainty is mistaken for intelligence. Dominance is mistaken for authority. But these traits collapse under sustained pressure. Insecure individuals struggle with accountability. They resist feedback. They deflect responsibility. They protect their image at the expense of growth. True strength does not need protection. It can tolerate exposure. How to observe insecurity without judging. Recognizing insecurity does not require criticism. It requires neutrality. You don't need to label, confront, or diagnose. You simply notice patterns. Does the person need constant validation? Do they struggle with being questioned? Do they react strongly to minor challenges? These observations allow you to calibrate closeness, trust, and expectation. You don't expect emotional stability from emotional fragility. You don't expect humility from someone protecting their ego. This is not judgment, it is realism. The role of compassion and distance insecurity is often rooted in early experience. Rejection, neglect, instability, all leave marks. Understanding this can soften your perspective without blinding you. Compassion does not require proximity. You can understand insecurity without absorbing its consequences. You can empathize without placing yourself in its path. Boundaries are not punishments. They are protection. The quiet advantage of emotional security. When you are secure, insecurity becomes visible without being contagious. You don't mirror intensity. You don't engage in comparison. You don't compete for validation. You remain steady. This steadiness is disarming. It removes the fuel insecure behavior relies on, and most importantly, it allows you to see clearly. Because insecurity always leaks. And once you learn to recognize its patterns, you stop being confused by behavior that once seemed unpredictable. You understand the signal beneath the noise, and that understanding gives you control, not over people, but over your response to them. Chapter 7. People reveal themselves. Under pressure, pressure does what comfort never can. It strips away rehearsal. It collapses performance. It exposes priorities. When life is smooth, people can maintain almost any image. They can be patient, generous, composed, and agreeable. But when pressure arrives, deadlines, conflict, loss, uncertainty, the nervous system takes over. And in that moment, behavior becomes honest. Pressure does not create character. It reveals it. This is why the most accurate way to read people is not during calm conversations, but during moments of strain. Why pressure changes. Everything under pressure, the brain shifts from reflection to reaction. There is less time to manage impressions, less energy to filter responses. The mind defaults to what it knows best: habit, instinct, conditioning. Some people become focused and decisive. Some become defensive and rigid. Some become avoidant. Some become controlling. These reactions are not choices in the moment. They are learned responses. And because they are learned, they repeat. Stress reveals. Emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is not measured by how someone behaves when things are easy. It is measured by how they respond when expectations collapse. Do they take responsibility or deflect blame? Do they communicate or withdraw? Do they regulate emotion or spread it? People with emotional maturity experience stress internally and manage it privately. People without it externalize stress. They project it onto others, create conflict, or demand reassurance. Stress reveals whether someone can hold discomfort without handing it to everyone around them. Pressure tests values, not words. Many people speak confidently about their values: integrity, loyalty, respect, accountability. But values are not proven through speech. They are tested when holding them costs something. Pressure creates cost. Under pressure, people choose between comfort and principle, between convenience and responsibility, between honesty and self-protection. These choices are often subtle. Cutting corners, shifting blame, avoiding difficult conversations. But subtle does not mean insignificant. Patterns formed under pressure define trustworthiness more accurately than any declaration ever could. How conflict reveals. Character conflict is a concentrated form of pressure. It removes politeness and reveals how someone handles disagreement. Do they listen or dominate? Do they seek understanding or victory? Do they stay grounded or escalate? The way someone argues tells you how they think when they feel threatened. People who cannot tolerate disagreement often equate opposition with rejection. Their reactions are driven by fear, not logic. People who remain calm during conflict are not indifferent. They are regulated. They can separate identity from opinion. This ability, rare and valuable, is one of the clearest indicators of psychological strength. Deadlines and responsibility. Time pressure exposes priorities. When time is limited, people reveal what matters most. Do they honor commitments or renegotiate without communication? Do they show up or disappear? Do they manage stress or let it manage them? Responsibility under pressure reveals reliability. Someone who consistently follows through when stressed is dependable. Someone who collapses under minor pressure is not suddenly going to become stable later. Pressure doesn't make people unreliable. It reveals whether reliability was ever there. The mistake of explaining. Pressure, away. Many people excuse behavior under pressure. They were stressed. They had a lot going on. They didn't mean it. Stress explains why behavior happened. It does not change what happened. If pressure consistently produces disrespect, avoidance, or aggression, that reaction is part of the person's behavioral pattern. Understanding context does not require ignoring reality. Observing without escalation. You do not need to provoke pressure to see it. Life applies pressure naturally. Projects fail, plans change, disagreements arise. Your role is not to test people. Your role is to notice how they respond. Do they stabilize or destabilize the environment? Do they take ownership or look for escape? Do they move toward resolution or amplify chaos? These observations allow you to adjust trust intelligently. The advantage of remaining calm: when you remain calm under pressure, you gain clarity. You see who panics. You see who manipulates. You see who stays steady. Calmness creates contrast, and contrast reveals truth. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means not allowing emotion to dictate behavior. The calm observer does not absorb chaos. They study it. What pressure ultimately shows you? Pressure shows you who someone becomes when comfort disappears, not who they claim to be, not who they are at their best, but who they default to when control slips. And once you understand this, your expectations become accurate. You stop being surprised by collapse. You stop being disappointed by avoidance. You stop being confused by inconsistency. You see the structure beneath the surface. Pressure removes the mask, and what remains is the person you're actually dealing with. That knowledge, quiet, grounded, and precise, allows you to move through relationships with clarity instead of illusion. And clarity under pressure is power. Chapter 8. Why you keep misjudging people. Most people assume they misjudge others because they don't have enough information. They think, if only I had known more. If only they had explained better. If only I'd asked the right questions. But the real reason people misjudge others is not lack of information. It is distortion. Human perception is not neutral. It is filtered by emotion, memory, hope, fear, and personal values. And unless you understand those filters, you will continue to see people not as they are, but as your mind quietly reshapes them to be. Projection. Seeing yourself in others. One of the strongest distortions is projection. Projection happens when you assume others think, feel, and value things the way you do. You interpret their actions through your own internal framework, not theirs. If you are honest, you assume honesty. If you are loyal, you expect loyalty. If you communicate directly, you believe others will too. This feels reasonable. It feels human. And it is the fastest way to misjudge people. Projection is comforting because it preserves a sense of order. It allows you to believe the world operates on shared rules. But human behavior does not follow a single moral code. It follows individual conditioning. People are not wrong for being different, but they are dangerous when you assume similarity that does not exist. Hope is not perception. Another reason people misjudge others is hope. Hope fills gaps with possibility. It interprets ambiguity generously. It delays conclusions. It turns patterns into exceptions. Hope says, they didn't mean it. They'll change. This time will be different. Hope is not foolish. It is emotional investment. When you want a relationship, an outcome, or a version of someone to exist, your perception bends toward that desire. You downplay behavior that contradicts it. You amplify words that support it. Hope makes words louder than actions. And because hope feels positive, people rarely question it. They mistake it for kindness, optimism, or emotional depth. In reality, hope is lens, and lenses distort. Familiar pain feels safe. People also misjudge others because familiarity feels safe, even when it hurts. The mind is drawn to what it recognizes. Patterns from childhood, past relationships, or early emotional experiences create internal templates. When someone fits those templates, they feel familiar, comforting, known, even if the pattern includes disappointment, neglect, or instability. This is why people sometimes trust those who repeatedly let them down, while remaining suspicious of those who behave consistently. Familiar pain is predictable. Healthy behavior feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliarity triggers caution. This leads to tragic misjudgments, where reliable people are undervalued and inconsistent people are endlessly excused. Over-explaining is a warning sign. Another distortion appears when you explain behavior more than you observe it. Explanation feels productive, it feels thoughtful, but excessive explanation often signals resistance to what behavior is already showing. When you find yourself constantly interpreting, contextualizing, and rationalizing someone's actions, ask yourself why observation alone doesn't feel sufficient. Truth does not require constant translation. Behavior that aligns with words is easy to accept. Behavior that contradicts them demands explanation, and explanation is where misjudgment thrives. Emotional attachment clouds accuracy. The closer you are emotionally, the harder it is to see clearly. Attachment creates bias. It magnifies positive traits and minimizes negative ones. It reframes inconsistency as complexity. It interprets harm as misunderstanding. This is not weakness. It is biology. The nervous system prioritizes connection. Seeing clearly sometimes threatens that connection. So the mind compromises perception to preserve attachment. This is why distance restores clarity. Not emotional coldness, but enough space to observe without needing a specific outcome. The need to be chosen. Many misjudgments are driven by an unconscious desire to be chosen, to be special, to be the exception, to be the one who is treated differently. This desire can override evidence. When someone treats others poorly but treats you well, it feels affirming, it feels like proof of worth. And the mind clings to that feeling, even when the broader pattern is clear. But being chosen by someone unstable does not mean you are secure. It means you are temporarily useful. And usefulness is not safety. How to correct perception without becoming cynical. Correcting misjudgment does not require suspicion of everyone. It requires slowing down. It requires separating behavior from interpretation, pattern from explanation, evidence from emotion. Instead of asking, "What do they mean?" ask, "What do they consistently do?" Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" ask, "How often does this happen?" These questions shift you from interpretation to observation. Clarity is a skill, not a trait. Seeing people clearly is not a gift reserved for the intuitive. It is a discipline of watching without filling gaps, of noticing without rescuing, of allowing reality to be what it is, even when it disappoints. When you release projection, hope-based distortion, and emotional bias, something stabilizes inside you. You stop misjudging not because people change, but because your perception does. And with accurate perception comes peace. Because confusion was never caused by people being complex. It was caused by you seeing them through filters that were never neutral. Once those filters fall away, people become remarkably easy to read. Not because they are simple, but because behavior, when seen clearly, rarely lies. Chapter 9. How to read people without becoming cold. One of the quiet fears people have when learning to read human behavior is this: if I see too much, will I stop feeling? If I understand people clearly, will I become distant, guarded, or emotionally numb? This fear is understandable, but misplaced. Clarity does not require coldness. Awareness does not demand withdrawal. In fact, the opposite is true. When you stop misunderstanding people, you become calmer, more grounded, and more capable of choosing how you relate, rather than reacting blindly. The false choice between empathy and awareness. Many people believe they must choose between empathy and perception. They think, if I see their flaws, I won't be kind. If I notice their patterns, I'll lose compassion. But empathy without awareness becomes self-sacrifice, and awareness without empathy becomes detachment. The goal is neither. The goal is grounded understanding. You can recognize someone's limitations without resenting them. You can understand someone's wounds without placing yourself inside them. You can see behavior clearly without turning it into judgment. This balance is what emotionally mature people develop over time. Why coldness is often a defense. Coldness usually does not come from understanding too much. It comes from being hurt repeatedly without clarity. When people feel confused, betrayed, or emotionally drained, they protect themselves by shutting down. They become distant not because they see clearly, but because they were exposed without boundaries. Understanding human behavior properly prevents this outcome. It allows you to adjust before damage accumulates. Seeing without absorbing. The key skill in reading people is separation. Separation between what someone feels and what you must carry, what someone struggles with and what you must fix, what someone reveals and what you must tolerate. You are not required to absorb what you understand. You can notice insecurity without accommodating it. You can see manipulation without engaging in it. You can recognize emotional instability without being pulled into it. This is not coldness. This is containment. Boundaries are not punishment. Many people confuse boundaries with rejection. They believe that setting limits means withdrawing care, affection, or respect. In reality, boundaries are what allow care to exist without resentment. When you read people accurately, you naturally adjust proximity. You don't overshare with someone who gossips. You don't rely on someone who avoids responsibility. You don't seek reassurance from someone who withholds consistency. This adjustment is not emotional cruelty. It is emotional intelligence. You meet people where they are, no higher, no lower. Compassion without illusion. True compassion is grounded in reality. It does not require pretending someone is different than they are. It does not depend on ignoring harmful patterns. It does not demand endless patience without accountability. Compassion says, I see you clearly, and I choose how close to stand. Illusion says, I will believe what hurts less right now. Illusion eventually collapses. Compassion endures. Letting go of the need to fix. One of the most liberating outcomes of understanding human behavior is releasing the urge to fix others. When you misread people, you assume change is just one conversation away. You believe clarity, effort, or love will transform patterns. But when you read behavior accurately, you see what is stable and what is not. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop investing energy in unlikely outcomes. You stop confusing potential with probability. This doesn't make you pessimistic. It makes you efficient, staying warm without being vulnerable. Everywhere. Emotional warmth does not mean universal openness. You can be kind without being exposed. You can be present without being permissive. You can listen without inviting influence. Warmth is an internal quality, not a boundary failure. People who appear cold are often those who never learned how to regulate closeness. They swing between overexposure and withdrawal. Reading people allows you to stay steady. The calm that comes from accuracy. When you stop projecting, over-explaining, and hoping against evidence, something settles inside you. You no longer feel pulled in multiple emotional directions. You no longer feel responsible for managing others' feelings. You no longer feel surprised by behavior that once confused you. This calm is not indifference. It is alignment with reality, and alignment creates peace. choosing connection, not obligation. Understanding people gives you choice. You choose connection when it is mutual. You choose distance when it is protective. You choose patience when it is deserved, not demanded. This is the difference between emotional maturity and emotional exhaustion. You are no longer reacting to who you thought people were. You are responding to who they consistently show themselves to be. And in doing so, you remain open without being unguarded. That is not coldness, that is wisdom. Chapter 10. The calm observer has the real power. Most people believe power comes from influence, control, or dominance. They think power belongs to those who speak the loudest, move the fastest, or demand the most attention. But real psychological power operates differently. It is quiet, it is steady, and it belongs to the person who can observe without being pulled into reaction. The calm observer holds the advantage, not because they manipulate others, but because they are not manipulated themselves. Reaction is loss of control. Every time you react impulsively, you give information away. You reveal what affects you. You reveal where your boundaries are weak. You reveal what you need. Reactive people believe they are expressing authenticity. In reality, they are surrendering control of their internal state to external stimuli. When someone can provoke you easily, they can steer you. The calm observer does not eliminate emotion. They delay response. That delay creates space, and space is where choice lives. Why observation creates leverage? Observation allows you to see patterns before you engage. Instead of responding to isolated moments, you respond to trends. Instead of being swept up by tone or intensity, you anchor yourself in consistency. This gives you leverage, not over people, but over situations. You don't overcommit early. You don't escalate unnecessarily. You don't reveal more than needed. You let others show their hand while you remain steady. Calmness is not passivity. Calmness is often misunderstood as weakness. In truth, calmness requires strength. It takes strength to pause when emotion urges reaction. It takes strength to listen when ego wants to interrupt. It takes strength to remain grounded when others escalate. Passive people avoid action. Calm people choose timing. The calm observer does not avoid confrontation. They choose it carefully. Stillness makes behavior visible. When you stop reacting, others fill the space. They speak more. They justify more. They reveal motives without being asked. Stillness removes resistance. And without resistance, behavior flows naturally. This is why calm presence is disarming. It invites honesty, not because it demands it, but because it does not interfere. Emotional regulation is strategic advantage. People who regulate emotions see farther. They notice subtle shifts. They catch contradictions early. They sense when energy changes. Emotional regulation is not suppression. It is mastery. Mastery means emotions inform action without commanding it. This skill protects you from manipulation, emotional contagion, and unnecessary conflict. The observer's relationship to power. The calm observer does not seek power over others. They seek clarity within themselves. This internal orientation changes everything. They are not driven by approval. They are not shaken by disagreement. They are not threatened by difference. Because their stability does not depend on external validation, this makes them difficult to manipulate and deeply respected. Choosing when to engage. One of the greatest advantages of observation is selectivity. You do not need to respond to everything. You do not need to correct everyone. You do not need to explain yourself repeatedly. Engagement becomes intentional, not habitual. You speak when it matters. You act when it counts. You withdraw when necessary. This precision conserves energy and increases impact. When calm changes the dynamic. Calm presence alters group dynamics. It lowers emotional noise. It shifts focus. It slows escalation. In moments of tension, the calm observer becomes the anchor. Others look to them for cues, even unconsciously. This influence is not forced. It emerges naturally from stability. The final integration, understanding human behavior, is not about dominance or distance. It is about alignment. Alignment between perception and reality, between emotion and response, between awareness and action. When you become a calm observer, you stop being surprised by people. You stop being controlled by emotion. You stop chasing clarity through explanation you already see. And seeing clearly, without urgency, without fear, without illusion, is where real power begins. Not loud power, not aggressive power, but quiet, grounded, unshakable power. The kind that does not need to announce itself. The kind that endures. Living calmly. Understanding human behavior does not give you superiority over others. It gives you freedom from confusion. That distinction matters. Throughout this audiobook, you've learned that people rarely reveal themselves through what they say. They reveal themselves through patterns, reactions, silence, pressure, and consistency. You've seen how insecurity leaks, how pressure removes masks, how silence speaks, and how behavior, quiet, repeated behavior, tells the truth long before words ever do. This knowledge is not meant to harden you. It is meant to stabilize you. When you understand people clearly, you stop personalizing what was never personal. You stop internalizing inconsistency that was never about you. You stop chasing clarity from those who cannot offer it. And in that space, something changes. You become calmer. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop fighting reality. You stop expecting depth from people who live on the surface. You stop waiting for accountability from those who avoid it. You stop investing emotionally where behavior has already answered for you. This is not withdrawal. This is alignment. Seeing clearly allows you to choose wisely, where to invest energy, where to set boundaries, where to remain open, and where to step back without guilt. You are no longer reacting to potential. You are responding to evidence. That shift alone can change the quality of your relationships, your decisions, and your emotional well-being. Understanding human behavior also teaches humility. You realize that most people are not malicious. They are conditioned. They are protecting wounds they may not even recognize. They are repeating patterns that once helped them survive. Seeing this does not mean excusing harm. It means understanding limitation. And understanding limitation prevents disappointment from turning into bitterness. You learn to meet people where they are, not where you wish they were. That is maturity. As you move forward, remember this. Clarity does not require confrontation. You do not need to expose, correct, or challenge everyone you understand. Often, the most powerful response is quiet adjustment. You observe. You note patterns. You choose accordingly. No drama, no resentment, no explanation required. The calm observer does not announce awareness. They embody it. And perhaps most importantly, this understanding turns inward. As you become more skilled at reading others, you also become more aware of yourself. You notice when your own reactions arise from fear instead of truth. You catch projection before it distorts perception. You feel the urge to explain, to rescue, to overextend. And you pause. That pause is growth. You begin responding instead of reacting, choosing instead of chasing, engaging instead of entangling. This is where emotional intelligence becomes lived experience, not just knowledge. In a world full of noise, performance, and misinterpretation, the ability to see quietly and accurately is rare. It gives you steadiness where others feel chaos. It gives you patience where others rush. It gives you confidence that does not need validation. You do not need to control people. You do not need to change them. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You only need to see clearly. Because clarity protects your energy. Clarity preserves your peace. Clarity allows connection without illusion and distance without guilt. And when you live from that place, calm, aware, grounded, you move through life with a quiet strength that cannot be shaken by confusion or deception. You understand people, and because of that, you understand yourself.